Tuck boxes are probably the most common packaging you'll find for most retail card games. So what are tuck boxes, why do they have the reputation that they do, and why are they still so common despite that reputation? Let's dig in. They're probably the most common type of packaging for small card games, ranging from a single deck of cards like Star Realms to larger boxes that have 2 decks of cards with components and some other chits with an insert inside this large box here. The thing that they all have in common, of course, is that they have a tuck. That is a little panel here that tucks inside the box to keep it closed, and usually a bottom tuck that is a little bit harder to access that keeps the bottom closed. They can all be printed on one sheet that gets folded and glued to these side panels here, which makes it very efficient to manufacture these at a large quantity. They're usually cheaper than a 2-part tuck box. The other nice thing is that they package fairly efficiently. There's very little open air inside these boxes. They're packed pretty densely. So what makes it great for manufacturing and shipping, that is, it's relatively thin, it's lightweight, makes it also less durable when you're the end consumer sticking this box into your bag. You can notice that some of the hinges can get a little bit frayed, the printing can wear off along the tension points along the corners and such. There are some clever solutions that you can use to make the end user feel a little bit more comfortable with their tuck box, of course. The most common one is to just add a notch so that that top panel is a little bit easier to open and close. As you can see here in Eminent Domain, they've added that notch, but they've also taken the extra step of actually packaging the game with this extra bit of chipboard, or corrugated cardboard in this case actually, to make the inside box a little bit more sturdy as it ships. When you remove that insert, it also makes enough room in the box to sleeve all of the cards that come in the game and still fit in that tuck box. And last but not least, the Card Wars Adventure Time card game is a much larger game than a typical card game, and has all of these extra bits, these chipboard bits. That includes tokens and 2 decks of cards. The nice thing that this allows them to do is, though you still have some of the issues with a tuck box that you normally would, at the very least it becomes a little bit easier to package because you can put all of your components into this one tray and then slide that tray into the box and close it up pretty easily. I quite like that solution. Let's go to the screen real quick to see what a tuck box looks like when you design it. Now this box design wasn't originated by me. I picked it up after another designer set it up, and so I just kind of followed the same template, but the principles are effectively the same. You really start with the things that are absolutely required on the package, and then you kind of work around that. So from there, I knew I had to have this amount of text, and so I put it up at the top on the back. I knew I had to have the art and components, and so I set them up in the available space that I had that was left over after the logos and the text. And then I filled in the rest with the background. And this background texture goes all the way well past the bleed marks and the crop marks, mainly so that no matter where the registration ends up, if it shifts up, down, left, or right, there's always going to be some background texture in there that won't reveal any kind of white bare paper along that cut line. Now those are the basics of a pretty standard tuck box design, but I want to give a little bit of extra attention to the drive-through cards tuck box. What Drive-Thru Cards has done for tuck boxes that's so unique amongst any other tuck box, I think is a factor of them being a print-on-demand service, so they can put a little bit of extra attention to each individual box. The structure that they've created is still one sheet, just like a standard tuck box, but the way they've constructed it is a way that doesn't call for any glue. It uses a little bit of extra room on the sheet and folds it up to create these thick double layers here and here, and also no tucking panel that goes at the bottom, so you never have that issue of putting your cards into the box and having them kind of slide out the bottom or push that bottom part down a little bit. It may be easier to see this with a deconstructed example here. This was all one big sheet. It was cut to fit this overall shape, and when it's constructed, this is the front panel, this is the back panel, these are the sides, and this is the top, and this is the bottom. When you actually construct it, if you just flip it over, you can see that these little tabs would slot into each other. These fold in, and once you do that, You take this big giant panel that holds the entire thing together, you slot it into the box, and it makes this pretty sturdy thing. And this is where you get the extra layers along the front here that gives the whole thing quite a bit of durability. You can kind of knock it around a little bit, and it's pretty nice. So I quite like these tuck boxes in particular. I don't know how feasible they would be in a mass market retail thing, because using the extra room on the sheet that is required to have all these extra panels may kind of hurt the economies of scale that you need to work with on a mass retail market game. But I quite like it, and it's probably my favorite. So let's go to the screen and see what this thing actually looks like when you design it. Let's just start off with dropping in the background here and just showing you what the background layer looks like. As before, I intentionally set up the background graphics to flow way off the cut lines and the die lines, even onto the panels that would not actually be seen when you actually construct the entire box together. It's good to kind of give a little bit extra margin along your edges and folds. So once I did that, I drop in the logos and get a sense of where those are going to be. For the package designer, the interesting dilemma of a tuck box is which side do you make the front? In this case, for this template, I could have made either one of these the front. And in fact, the example that I was sent had this side as the front, but I didn't want that crease that you have in that hinge joint to overlay or crease into any of the front graphics. So I flipped it around, I made this the back, and decided that I would make this hinge joint the place where I would put the game information, the age, the time, that sort of thing. I also drop in the footer area here on the bottom of the front panel. Again, giving like a lot of room. This is close to 1/4 of an inch of margin along the sides and the bottom. That's more than you would typically provide in a mass-produced box design, but I wanted to kind of hedge my bets with a POD design. And the last step is just adding the art. I'll close out this episode with some close-up high-res shots of the drive-through cards boxes. I think they look really good. I really like them a lot. I wish that design were a little bit more common, but I doubt they will be just because of the economies of scale required for a mass-market retail product. Still, I hope this episode shows you a few little tips of how to design your own tuck boxes and what steps you can take to make tuck boxes a little bit more user-friendly. Thanks very much. Hello, thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed it. If you want to download more stuff and more content, you can find it over in the Patreon at the link below. Thanks very much. Bye!